Fishbowl. We are here at Deadly Tattoos in Calgary. We are going to go over the finer points of drawing for large-scale tattoos.
Yeah, we might get a little fancy today.
Very fancy. Yeah. The fancier the better, if you ask me.
Sometimes fancy's not good though.
We've been accused of being fancy.
Yeah, that's why it's fundamentals.
Yeah.
Not fancy mentals. Oh, that doesn't make sense.
All right. So yeah, I think we should go over maybe back pieces, sleeves, your thought process and mine on how you approach them, you know.
Yeah.
So I know I've seen you talk to people that want to get tattooed and you're kind of urging them to get bigger pieces and use the space and, you know, draw bigger stuff.
Whatever you're doing right now, you should just blow it up and do it bigger. Yeah. 100%. I think, you know, it's just going to look like smashed ass in 20 years, man, if you don't. There's one thing's for sure, man. It's not going to look the same as what you did it.
For sure. Yeah, you could do something that looks nice in the moment. Maybe it looks cool on the internet, but most of the time it's a blur fest.
I think if you're tattooing for the day, like a banger, or like you're trying to get those likes at the end of the day. Yeah, I think that's a good sign that your tattoo is not going to be that good years down the road, unless it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's that instant gratification. You do the thing, you put it out there, bing, bang, boom. But for me, it's more fulfilling to do like a bigger piece. People come back, they do sessions over a number of months and years.
Yep. And then you get to know your client, you build a good rapport.
Yeah, that's a lot of what I enjoy about tattooing.
Yeah, same.
But
not really into the smaller banger stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the people do it really well, and it's they're super fun to get. I think you should always aim for the bigger ones, because you're gonna get clients that are more serious.
Okay.
And then you get to clients traveling for you, and that client is going to tell 10 other people that this is what my guy did.
Right.
And they're going to want bigger stuff. It's just like...
So you don't mind starting a bigger piece that isn't finished at a convention in one day?
I'd rather do bigger stuff, I think.
Just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't consider myself a bodysuit guy. We talk about that. But I just like a piece on someone that's big, a sleeve, a front, a back, a leg. Even if it's a lower leg, it still has to be pretty big that someone else could add into, not just plunk shit next to it. I just fucking hate that. Yeah,
I'll notice that you will kind of leave the door open. So even if you were to do half a leg that's big, you'll run some negative space so that either you or someone else can continue the piece from there, go bigger with it.
Yeah.
And the thinking is always bodysuit.
And there's a good chance. Usually if people are collecting illustrative, that kind of artists are looking for, like illustrative tattooers of different variety, of course. They're probably gonna get another illustrative tattooer next to it, so that guy knows how to, if you leave the door open, that guy, girl or guy will be able to blend into your stuff. And I think that's what makes a good collector bodysuit with flow, instead of just bing bang booga bing bang bang.
Yeah, because ultimately that person, when they're all said and done and they run out of room, you want it to be kind of cohesive, like one big thing that works together. Yeah.
Like I like when I see another tattooer, even working next to a collector or someone who's collecting a lot of stuff. Yeah. And watching him work into that space better, or adding onto it. Yeah. It just looks better, and he cares about his craft. Yeah. It's not just care about a fucking post.
Yeah, it's not the instant.
Yeah. Look at what I can do, kind of thing.
So I do think like easier said than done. If you just hit the photocopier, blow it up. Sometimes stuff lands where it shouldn't be, and
for sure, but that's where actually having some kind of
so that's kind of where
you got to hit the.
I think we should discuss that maybe a little bit, is where you would kind of, once you start blowing things up and covering more body parts, maybe you have a joint in there, you know?
Yeah. Well, anatomy is the hardest.
That's huge.
Some people do it really well, of course, right?
Yeah. Because once you're doing a piece that's the size of your fist, you don't really have to consider anything about anatomy at all. I think you just kind of place it where it needs to go, and then you're done. But say like a back piece, you're going over shoulder blades, spine, you got your butt crack in there, like all that stuff needs to be a consideration once you start drawing. For bigger stuff. Yeah. So
even if you get a back piece where someone doesn't want to go below the waist, right?
Yeah, which is half.
Still keep it open-ended.
For sure. Yeah. Because that person's coming back.
Oh, guaranteed.
Every time.
Well, almost guaranteed. But it's a fucking
or they,
chance.
Whatever they do down the road, they're going to go somewhere else. Because if you do your legs and then you half your back and you have a big blank ass, it looks weird.
It looks stupid.
Yeah. It does.
For me, it does. There's no floor. You're just cutting it off.
Yeah. The closer you get to having a bodysuit in whatever form it is, like that looks unfinished. You start to notice the open areas and stuff, I think.
I think tattooing for me in general is work with the body.
It has to.
People who just do bangers mostly, that's not tattooing.
It's like a small part of it. You're doing the drawing, you're executing the tattoo, but it's not the bigger picture of what it, maybe should be.
Yeah.
Or is supposed to be.
Because if you're not working with the body, this is a job where you're drawing and putting stuff on a body for permanent.
Yeah.
It's the body.
So when you see a tattoo that's like, maybe it's something that somebody's done really big, but there are things that stand out where you're like, that's wrong, or that looks weird. Like there are certain rules that are almost unspoken.
Yeah.
Like it'd be hard to describe like what's right and wrong as far as placement, but you know it when you see it. There's like a, say you have like you wouldn't put a face like on a sleeve going backwards and stuff like that. Like there are kind of those rules.
Which we see a lot of.
Yeah, which happens. And
I've just seen that.
I don't even know why. It just seems wrong. Like having things kind of looking outwards from the inside of a forearm, stuff like that. All your subject matter kind of faces forward on the person.
Yeah, energy forward. It kind of.
Yeah, it just seems like.
But you can do stuff backwards. You can do stuff backwards.
Yeah.
I do this a lot.
There is a tricky way to do it that I've seen you do.
Yeah, you could turn away, but they're looking forward or something.
Yeah, so the body's backwards, but the face will move forward.
Something.
Yeah.
That looks like something's going forward.
But you're still playing with those rules. You're still like what's right and wrong. You're kind of having fun with that, right?
Yeah, I like to think I do, but I'm pretty sure I don't either.
Yeah, but if you say you drew it and you looked at it, like you would have that kind of intuitive thing of like, I don't know, I think it looks weird.
Yeah.
Right? So you have those kind of rules always running in your brain.
Like where to place if you're doing a anatomy on a back and where to place that face.
Yeah.
And you can't put it in the love handle.
Yeah, because
you can, but it's going to look like shit.
Yeah, and it's going to, if that person's body weight fluctuates, so does the face.
Yeah.
Any number of those kinds of things. But,
and just flow in general.
That's huge. That's when, like, without a little bit of flow, like a background or like a negative space kind of thing moving through it, or even just flow, like say you had a lady and she was wearing like a, whatever she's wearing, you can get the flow out of the dress or whatever she has on.
You can get flow out of hair.
Yeah.
You can get flow out of telling a story with the eyes.
And that's not just for fun. I think that actually is what makes it look like it belongs on the person.
Yeah.
If you kind of hug a shoulder.
Like you could tell when someone just Pinterest something or whatever, a magazine.
Rigid.
It's stoic usually, right?
Yeah.
And it's a hand that probably it's in the weird spot,
Yeah, but it looks good on paper. But then
as
soon as you take it to skin, it's moving and changing and it's 3D. Yeah, those are the types of things that stick out to me where I'm like, I can't really explain why that doesn't work, but it doesn't. So say, like hypothetically, you're a tattooer who wants to go from maybe doing smaller things to bigger things. Because I think everybody starts there, right? Like maybe you start in a walk-in shop, you start doing small stuff because that's just what's coming in. You're getting your reps in there and getting familiar with tattooing.
Yeah.
And then people
getting your confidence too. That's
using
a big
machines, working with clients, that kind of thing. And then some people seem to progress more into doing bigger pieces. Their clients start to trust them more, that kind of stuff. Hopefully they haven't done too much small stuff on people to ruin those sleeves. But like when, say just a hypothetical tattooer in that position is making that jump to doing bigger pieces, you don't just start blowing stuff up and have everything work perfectly. Like there is a rhythm to how it fits and stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to think that's just anatomy. Like we all take a tracing. I'll take a picture of the person's arm if there's a weird freckle or something.
Yeah.
You want to see all that stuff so that you can draw for that part.
It is important. That's why it is drawn on paper over a trace.
Yeah.
Is probably your best bet.
Yeah.
These things do lack it a bit, so you'd have to take a photo of the trace, so at least you're getting the
for sure.
You know what I mean? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take if the person can make it to the shop, I'll take a tracing paper with the Sharpie and then lay it flat, take a picture of it, and then draw on that.
Yeah.
Because then your boundaries, your borders, all that stuff.
I think once you have an idea, you almost don't need a trace anymore.
How so?
Like
if you have in your head,
maybe because I'm stupid, but I tend to lose every trace that I trace on.
Yeah.
And then after I tattoo the guy, then I find the trace.
And you're like, oh.
But
do you think that's just like
because there's some formulas that work, right?
Yeah. Is it like just a custom that we do just to, like, why do you trace if you don't use it?
Well,
you think it's still valuable?
I want to be prepared.
Right.
So when the customer comes in, I'm set up, ready to go. Like usually when the customer comes in, I'm tattooing within 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, same. I don't like messing around.
I don't want to make the customers wait. If they're waiting, it usually means I'm shitting the bed.
Right.
You know, or I shit the bed, or we'll.
You're redrawing something, or Yeah, because I think people come in with an expectation of like, all right, let's do this, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I don't like to prolong that for them. I like to.
You ever get customers coming in going and just like they feel like I feel like they need like half an hour to get ready, like they're like settling in,
and you're waiting for them.
And I'm just like, are we doing this or what? They're like, oh, you're ready now? I'm like, yeah, dude, I've been ready for literally 4 hours
holding the machine. Yeah. Because I think that's like, by the time you get to the point where you're doing the tattoo, you've prepared, like you've been drawing and thinking about it, you set up your station, you pick needles. There's so much prep that's like the final step, and they just are coming into the process then.
They don't know that we stressed out for the last 2 days.
They don't know your whole,
Even if I'm drawing something on, I know I'm going to draw something on.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, I've seen you do little versions on like your drape sheet sometimes.
Or warm-ups.
Like you kind of get your hand going.
Yeah. Because you know what you want.
Yeah. But it's maybe to cut down on the amount that you're going to experiment when you're drawing on the person.
Yeah.
But I think, trying to be prepared for people when they come in. I think even more so, like if you're doing a bigger piece on the person, I've prepared more. Like I'm already kind of in that like let's go mode.
Yeah.
If you're lining it back or something, but maybe circling back to like those rules that you want to consider when you go from something small to something big. I'm sure for you now it's second nature. Like you're not maybe considering it as much as you were in the beginning.
No.
Like
I know what not to do.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the time because I still tend to try something weird.
Right. Yeah, you'll
limits.
Monkey wrench it a little bit to see what you can get away with, or.
Because I mean, I've done like, how many women tattoos,
Yeah.
How many times can I keep doing this? It feels like I'm just.
So, does it like in the way that you think it starts to? Because you want to give each person a unique tattoo, and you want to keep it unique to yourself, and like try new stuff.
Yeah, it's like doing a dragon.
Yeah.
There's only like so many.
Right.
Pretty cool positions. It's like doing a koi. You could reverse flip. You know what I mean? It's pretty much you're doing the same fucking thing every day.
So I think that is two schools of thought too. Like I've seen, in a more traditional sense of things, you do flash off the wall. So you're doing the same tattoo hundreds of times, sometimes in a busy walk-in shop. We'll just say, I'll have the tiger. Boom. You've done that tiger 100 times. Like that's where I started in tattooing. I did the same, and you get the repetition is good, I think, for learning machines and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, like once you move into being a custom illustrative tattooer, like you and I both are, you want everything to be different. So you kind of always have to be thinking about like ways to change. Even if there's things you do about a piece, you're like, oh, I like how this laid out. I like how it went. I can't do that again. Like you have to. I don't know if it's like coming up with new tricks or just trying new things or.
Yeah, we're trying to come up with new tricks once in a while.
Yeah, because they're out there, but they're all based off of the original rules.
Yeah.
So you're kind of playing within that arena.
We both love traditional Japanese tattooers and artists, right?
Yeah, it's super striking when you see just a Japanese one.
But then we also said, like, if you get 3 people that do all great Japanese, and sometimes you put it beside each other.
Sure.
And you didn't know who they were. They could be the same sometimes.
Yeah.
They're trying to hit that mark.
Yeah,
we're trying not to hit that mark.
You've reached a goal, and the goal is that's a Japanese back piece. There's an arrival point where you're like, either it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe in our thing, the more illustrative thing, there isn't really a right or wrong. There isn't like you're shooting for something that's already been established. You're kind of trying to achieve something nobody's ever done.
Yeah.
Which is pretty stressful.
Yeah.
At times.
People expect a lot out of us.
Yeah. So why don't you just throw paint at a paper and then you're like, oh, it's different, it's new, Like it still has to follow the rules, but it still has to be something that you can like get your personality across.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's a James Tex tattoo. So maybe like let's get into maybe like how you would describe those sets of rules, like that kind of arena that you're playing inside, where you're changing things, you're moving hands and heads and things to position differently, but you're still adhering to those rules that are right and wrong, or like we talked about, like you see it and you know it's wrong, you just don't know why.
Yeah.
And again, it being like second nature or just muscle memory to you, I know it's hard to explain because you're thinking more about the idea than maybe the mechanics of where it goes on the body and that kind of stuff, you know. So you have a back piece here. You have a back piece drawing.
Yeah, drawing. You also have one.
I do. You just told me why it's wrong, and I appreciate that.
It's not wrong.
Well, yeah.
Well, actually, it's wrong. You know it's wrong now, though.
I do now, yeah.
Yeah.
And
you could probably point shit out too.
But that's the thing, is like this was something that I just winged it, you know, pun intended, it's a bird. But it still has to follow some kinds of rules. And this was me just kind of putting things where I thought they would look cool. And then once it's all said and done, as soon as I show it to a different tattooer, they're like, oh, you broke the rule.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, shit.
Actually, I can see a couple of wrong ones.
What?
I can point out a couple that wrong.
Please.
Yeah. Because aesthetically it's perfect. You know what I mean? Actually, the wind bars and stuff are awesome. The two heads on one side, right?
Yeah.
That's called totem pulling a bit in tattooing. You know, when you're just stacking.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Stacking, but you're just stacking on top of each other.
Totally.
And then
I think
your movement of the snake is the same placement of each wing or these feathers. So you're kind of mimicking each side. So your brain is probably, you see this looks like a infinity knot.
So it's,
and now I'm focused on this wing and this wing. This circle is this wing, this circle is this wing.
Huh.
So you did like, you know what I mean? Repetitive with the wings and that, and then see, bing, bing, bing. You're placing your.
So it overlaps it too much. Like it follows the same.
Yeah, and this is two across, two across, two across. See this line for the wings, give or take, right? So it's like two the same.
Yeah, it definitely mimics each other.
It's like I'm gonna draw boobs on your back.
Right.
And this is that energy, and that's that energy, and then you have this. So this is, for me, you're going two rules you broke.
Mm-hmm.
Same. Like this is, you're stacking the same thing, and then you have this is also in line. So to me, it looks like a square. Everything's squared off in this thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? When we start looking at it like that?
Yeah, 100%.
Or if you had like this head up here and more snake that way, and one wing kind of just,
Mm-hmm.
You're stacking 90-degree circle. So now you have, So you see how the energy is laid out now? It's moving. The snake has flow. Everything's illustrated great.
It's moving within a box, right?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. So that, where that should be, you know what I mean?
Just to have it be more exciting, have one lower than the other, that kind of thing?
Just by moving one part lower, it gives it energy. And that's what gives flow.
Okay.
Right? By having things offset. When things are squared and stacked next to each other, you lose the energy.
Okay.
Other than being a rad illustration, right? This energy is good, right?
Yeah, that's kind of...
reads from top to bottom, we know that, right? But this also, it just follows it too, right?
Yeah.
The two things doing the same thing.
So it's a little bit too on the head just as far as placement, where it should go, that kind of thing.
I don't know.
No, I think you're totally right.
I'm just trying to pick it apart.
Yeah.
No, fucking pick mine apart. But this is tattooed, so you get
yeah.
It's too late.
Easy. But no, I think there's a thing too where like by the time you're done a drawing, like you've looked at it for so long, that you're gonna have a blind spot.
Yeah.
Like I've looked at this drawing so many times, and then you saw it, and within the first 10 seconds, you're like, this, and this.
Yeah.
You have that outside perspective, right?
Yeah, and you're not doing foreshortening, so you are staying to that semi-traditional, right?
Pretty flat, yeah.
So I'm doing the opposite here.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to have flow with, so this is the energy, right? That kind of movement, is that right? How can I do that? Or here's your flow, right?
So do you tend to, I mean, it seems like an obvious question, but like, is your flow usually a straight line or a diagonal line? Like you kind of...
I
you don't
have
have
I have a curve in a lot of things I do.
Okay.
Right? And then as soon as I have that, you gotta have something going the other way. So then nothing is squared off. This is borderline square there, right? But it's a little bit, and then which I probably shouldn't do too much of, right? You know, that 90.
Yeah.
But it's not quite a 90, but then I broke it there.
And it almost disappears into this kind of shoulder pad that you've made. Like if you saw that whole arm, I think that would be a lot more rigid. Like the fact that you have a little flow there to break it up, I don't think you have that harsh angle.
And I think this is on a small girl, so her back is, when it's on her too, it kind of gives it that kind of downward thing too. That it actually helps the perspective more sometimes, right?
Okay.
Because you ever seen on back pieces where people try to do foreshortening? I know one of our friends did it, and he noticed it afterwards too, right? When you do foreshortening and try to put the thing that's foreshortened at the bottom, you know, with the thing, try to reach down but getting bigger, but then you put on the body, and backs don't do that.
Yeah.
Backs are getting bigger.
If it is a smaller, you're usually kind of looking down on the lower part of the back. So yeah, that is a good point. Usually it doesn't have that effect.
So here it is. This is where your back is bigger, right, going in.
Mm-hmm.
So that now comes out again, because this is where the waist is and the ass.
Okay.
So then that accentuates that even more.
Two planes are sort of going like this.
Yeah. You're using the body as the helping with the foreshortening.
Okay.
And you can tell when people, and you've seen people you can tell they traced out an image or
sure.
It's super stiff, right? And it's just plunked in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And then they try to do foreshortening or I don't know. You just see it doesn't look it looks stiff.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the difference between maybe something that would look good
but
on paper and iPad.
And you could see when I started this thing, I was fucking around. I usually start with a face.
Mm-hmm.
And just see if I can figure out an angle or something. So I draw for myself first. I start drawing for myself, and now I fit it to the body a bit, right?
Okay. So you get a little bit of your juice in there.
Yeah, I start drawing first, and then I can tweak it out.
You get to the point where you're kind of excited about it, and then...
Yeah.
Cool.
There's another one of using the foreshortening, you know, and then using the ass when it's foreshortening.
Okay.
This is behind, so you use that, the back is going down, right, down, so this is foreshortening the other way, you know, like the perspective, right? So you actually use, it's not just what you see on paper, but when you see it on back too, it makes more sense. Starts figuring out, you know what I mean? Why things are going back to where the back is disappearing, right? It actually helps with the drawing. So if you're foreshortening 80, because people just think you could just, that's why when you trace something out, and it looks round, it's going to be a good tattoo. You put it on a body, it doesn't make sense. And we see this all the time. I see a lot of people do this. Because that's why you know it's a fucking trace.
Right.
Which is fine. That's where you got to do it. But you're not drawing for the body.
Yeah, it seems to lose... I mean, that's a quality that your work seems to have to me, is it looks alive on there. You know, like even in this case, like he's kind of coming forward and stuff. And I've seen people try to shoot for it, and the drawing on paper looks like it's coming forward, the perspective is there, or maybe they found a reference picture that they've kind of just dropped in there or something. But so you are intentionally thinking like, okay, this has to go here because that's the part of the back that comes out, and it goes in, and then it comes out. Yeah. Yeah, you could draw it, but it doesn't have that like sculpture element where it's like actually coming out. Like the drawing's coming out, but then on the back it also kind of pops forward.
Like no matter what style you do, it could be traditional or whatever, but you're still drawing for the body.
You have to, yeah. Yeah, if you draw something on paper, like that for example, super cool on paper, but I can already tell that's a cool back piece. Because that's going to come out where the butt comes out, everything comes out.
There's a negative.
Yeah.
A negative where the pinch is, right?
So
these things are here to help with if someone have love handles, right? So that's it almost works with the creases.
Okay.
Or if someone's gonna change their body changes over time.
Yeah.
It's almost planning ahead.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then so that one's negative. This one's solid, but it's kind of similar. This one's I'm not gonna put a face there.
Yeah.
So you're using all these to fit the body. Yeah, just because it's a square It shouldn't be square because the body is actually, I know it looks like a square right now, but really, you know, this is dipping in. No matter if it's a guy or a girl, right? Depending on, even if it's a super ripped big guy, probably a little bit more, right? But most people, so here's your focus part on most people within these lines. So this stuff here, as it folds around the body, it actually helps with the drawing. It gives it that perspective. Because it's not a super crazy perspective drawing, but body, and when it's on the body, it actually makes it another 10% more. So, you know, and also like, depending on the body, you gotta be careful where you put face. If it's a fucked up gorilla like this, or a pretty face, you know? You can get away with more. The uglier something is, the more you get.
Yeah, creases in the face.
Yeah, but if this is like a beautiful woman,
yeah,
you know, like, you got to pay attention, like this, how this body moves and stretches, because it fucks with shit, you know. Because not everyone, you know, you can tell when people are just trying to get that photo. Even if it's a back piece, it's a stiff drawing of a beautiful girl right in the middle. But as soon as they stand different or turn their neck, it's like Quasimodo. All of a sudden, you know, like. They're not drawing for the body.
All those things considered, like when you're drawing a back piece, you're thinking about, you're kind of 3D. As like you're drawing, you know, flat and stuff like that. There's only so much you can get away with. But as you're drawing, you're kind of consciously thinking, what's the shape of the back in a 3D
like
space?
Drawing for an arm.
Yeah.
That's, you know, a lot of people can't even conceptualize how it's going to fit.
Right.
You know, when you take a trace and the sleeve is this big, right? And the customer looks at it going like, holy shit, I have a big fucking arm.
Everybody said, is that my arm? Guys are like, that's right. Don't run out of paper.
I'll have a rendered drawing ready to go, and they come in and see it, and they're like, yeah, that's not going to fit.
Yeah.
Because they can't see how it's going to.
I have the same experience in people that get leg tattoos and don't understand how much surface area there's on your leg. It's a back piece, basically. It's huge.
It's neck. It's usually for sure. Your leg is probably neck to the bottom of your cheeks. Yeah. In space.
Legs are huge. So you take a tracing and people are like, so a couple sittings and we'll be good? And I'm like, no, this is just like a massive tattoo.
Yeah.
But it's deceiving because it's a limb. But yeah, there's a lot of surface area there, which you might not even know. Like in your head, if you were drawing for a leg sleeve and you're like, oh, I'll just kind of put things where they need to go. I always just underdraw if I don't have a tracing. Because I just assume, you kind of forget how much room there is there. But in the same way that you kind of have this, like, you kind of just drew like a big X in a back piece and you said these are the intersection points. Top goes up, bottom goes down, kind of like, top of the back and then butt comes out. What's your consideration for an arm? Like what would your kind of like, where's the 3D map on as far as a sleeve for you?
There's so many.
Yeah.
So many.
That's one you can mess with, right? Because you have a little bit more of a.
So here's your elbow, right? There's your back line of your arm. Like say that's your elbow, right? Mm-hmm. Then if you were to have a seam that goes from, if you were to look at someone's back of the arm, there is it. So there's just the energy coming off an elbow alone, right? You draw some certain lines like that, and it almost helps you design stuff.
There is that moment where it kind of has to, if you have more of an understanding of like the the anatomy where things fall, it does draw itself in a way, right? Do you have that?
Yeah.
Like where it kind of like where does the snake go?
Don't use the elbow.
Yeah.
It's like you're just missing a huge opportunity.
Most people don't, like the muscles in people's arms aren't usually very pronounced. Most of the time it's a tube.
Yeah.
The elbow is the one thing that you have that you can use that like juts out.
Yeah.
Or like the cap of the shoulder is usually pretty pronounced. But that's your one excuse to get a little bit of 3D in there. I think it's probably the most important part.
The most important part.
Because it's also your transition from the lower to the upper. So you kind of have to like, again, a place you would never put a face or something because it's going to bend the shit out of it. Yeah. But it's the most exciting, I think. Done. A face on an elbow?
I've seen a nose on an elbow.
Really?
It looked pretty cool.
Did you do it?
No, I did not do it. I think it was actually a Honda, so the back of the arm. Because it's a Honda, you could fuck it up. I think it was like half.
Oh, noseworthy? Did he?
do it?
He did one where the sleeve was a big front on Hanya, but maybe
that could be the inside.
maybe it was more on the front. Yeah.
I've seen it on the elbow too.
Okay.
I
get the temptation to try it, but if
elbow is,
some people that's elephant skin. Yeah.
Or whatever it is, right?
Us crusty Canadians in the winter. But yeah, I think for sure elbow might be the most important part. Just using it for, you can pronounce a part of your drawing a little bit better. You can kind of use it to.
Well, when you map out your sleeve, I'm pretty sure you do this. Let's say here's your trace. Right, center, elbow, ditch, right? Give or take.
Yeah.
This is also these are your key points. You know, or even that muscle in there, right?
Yeah.
Because if you were to put a face, sometimes right here, you know, that deltoid meets the arm.
Yeah, you're gonna give them a big forehead popping out.
I've done it.
Me too. Yeah. But if it's like say it's a tiger, it's less of an issue than if it's like a woman's delicate face.
Yeah.
You know, a tiger, the proportions can kind of be whatever, or maybe it's more forgiving.
Yeah, like I've done years ago. I did a Jesus sleeve. It had some cool foreshortening in it too, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And then the guy lost. I'm guessing 100 pounds.
Oh.
And I seen it years later, and good for him. He got healthier, you know, he feels good, but he's still stoked on his arm. Check it out, it still looks good. And I looked at him like, it looks like.
It's a different
arm.
arm.
Jesus fell back and cracked his head open.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a different arm.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So I wonder how many people consider like that's going to change. You know, it's pretty popular now. Women getting their full torsos done. And stuff like that. And there's a good chance they're going to have kids.
Sure.
And their body's going to change dramatically.
But I think if you hit those body parts, if everything is where it should be, the person could pack on 400 pounds or lose 400 pounds.
Still look cool.
It'll still work with the anatomy.
Yeah.
Somehow. Hopefully. That's the hope.
Have you ever done a big boot on a bigger guy?
No.
I have.
But
cool.
That's awesome.
That's rad, right?
Yeah.
You're working with the body.
That's the ultimate fat guy tattoo. Just a big Buddha on the belly. Yeah.
Which rad.
Because it draws itself. The Buddha, the belly is his belly. It comes out you just have to sort of outline that, I guess.
Yeah, just draw the simple outline. Just color it yellow.
So again, let's go back to maybe what you wouldn't do. You're kind of saying in this layout here, where you wouldn't put a face, where you wouldn't put something, but then you've seen people getting away with breaking the rules. You know, it's possible, but if you mess that up, you look like a dick.
I do like a challenge, though.
Yeah.
I tried to put a face in
so it's tempting to try and mess with that, right?
Yeah, so, okay. I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk it through, anyways. So, see it ahead here, right? This is where you could have, everyone's doing mushrooms growing out of everything nowadays, right? Then you do the split, and there you go. One eyeball.
Oh, I see. Split the face.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, you could do
work.
it. Yeah, for sure.
Actually got an idea for a tattoo.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Make that one.
That's not bad.
And you're actually drawing for the body.
Yeah. So you're.
Flow, and then you're fighting the flow with other secondary objects.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. You cracked the code. You broke the rules.
I'm sure it's been done a zillion times. I think we can get away with a lot of things if you.
Yeah. As long as you're playing you're playing with the rules. You have to be aware of them, where not to put stuff. And then that little tempting part of you is I bet I could try it.
That's why it is important to ask for hey, what do you think?
To the client or to another?
To another.
Well, yeah, we sat down and because immediately your brain is going to go to I don't get that. What's going on here? That kind of thing. And yeah, you've stared at a drawing for however long it's taken you to draw it, and then you just don't see it.
If someone asks for a critique, a friend or something,
you
should actually, unless you don't see it, you should tell them, because that's permanent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just you do have to maybe have an understanding if that person can take criticism.
Well,
because that could be a slippery slope, maybe.
True. And if you give it, you should be able to take it too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, then if you ask for it,
as long as it's
If
constructive.
you're not giving a critique of something, or at least showing an obvious mistake,
Yeah.
how is just telling, and you see it and you're like, oh, looks good. You want him to fail or her to fail? So why not?
Maybe. Yeah.
Do people just like, oh, that looks cool?
Even if they
when people
don't.
look over your shoulder and go like, cool.
Yeah.
I want to stab them in the face.
Because it's.
I'm like, does that mean you don't like it?
Yeah. Or you're holding something back, or like there's an opinion that you're not offering.
Like it, or they like it, but they don't want to.
They don't want to tell you they like it.
Yeah, because they're trying to be. I don't get it. It's fucked up.
Yeah, I don't know. I prefer the opposite, where it's like, yeah, that's awesome, or like,
Yeah.
By the time it's tattooed, I think the window of criticism is gone.
You should not say it.
Yeah, then you're just kind of like, nice, sweet.
And I've worked for people who've done that to me.
What?
Said like, oh, that looks.
Oh, they let you do it? Yeah.
And then I'm tattooing and like, oh, you did it like that? Or while I'm tattooing it, or.
That's pretty fucked up. Yeah. But I think.
I could have used that criticism before when I showed you the drawing or something.
Yeah, I think like, I don't know. Even if somebody offers you criticism, you could just take it on board and be like, yeah, cool,
What's up to you?
You could use it or not use it. Yeah. But most of the time, if it's valuable enough for that person to say it, it's probably right. It's probably worth.
You showed 3 people, and 2 of the people see that mistake, but you still don't fix it.
Yeah. When did that happen?
No, I'm just saying. That's just being stubborn.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I see. Like if you took a drawing around and you were like, a bunch of people were like, that's fucked up, and you're like, nah.
Yeah.
Just go with it anyway.
It's pretty easy to trace out a face and add some anal beads in the hair and say like, and you show somebody and they're gonna be like, yeah, that looks great because it's what it's supposed to be, right?
That's a move. Yeah. People do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe have the app that draws the circles for you. That's pretty cool too.
Really, just
Have that one? I don't have that one, but
no.
Like you could do like beads that just with one stroke. Eh? I think you can make your own brushes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it exists, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
It's like the snake brush to you.
Oh yeah. Chad made one of those.
Chad, yeah.
But, I don't know. Criticism's huge because full disclosure, I used this back piece in a seminar, talking about how I knew how to draw back pieces, and then I sat here and you outside perspective, you were just like, it's too boxy. It's fucked up. There's no flow to it. And then me adding the wind bars, trying to make an excuse for flow, was compensating for how boxy the shape was. I was disguising that lack of just energy and kind of having things offset. Yeah. I'm just creating right angles all over the place.
Flow is not background.
Yeah.
Before you do the background, I think you should analyze your stuff. Does this have flow? Does it have energy? Energy is flow, right?
Yeah. So I think you're thinking, if I'm understanding correctly, like right angles, straight lines are the opposite of flow. Like if you have that rigid kind of meeting of things, like
it doesn't have it, but you could use them as depends what you're drawing. There's things with straight lines in it, but then you got to add perspective and stuff.
Yeah, anal beads around it.
Anal beads.
More beads is what you're saying. I want more beads. Yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it because flow is kind of that like elusive word that you don't really know what it means, but you know it when you see it. It's there. Like it works somehow. So like if there's a final level of flow, it works with the anatomy. It follows some kind of a formula. Like it's drawn well, so it's readable, and then it kind of
perspective is also flow.
Okay. Like so, like a foreshortening coming right at you kind of thing.
But it's not just coming at you. It can come at you and that flows up.
Right.
There's flow and movement to the body.
Yeah. Which I don't know that you get from pulling a line drawing off a photograph. It seems to be that's something that's lost. I think
you'd have to maybe have someone posing for you in quite the dynamic way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To get what you want to get across.
Which I've heard of people doing like life drawing, like having a model come and draw in for them and stuff. I've heard of people doing that. Yeah. But that to me is all just a way to improve the skill of drawing itself, not to get photos to
trace.
Yeah.
Was it like the first time, a long time ago when me and Steve were staying at Driscoll's? Remember when we all came up to Edmonton?
Yeah.
And then
way back.
Steve and Driscoll were doing a collab on Steve Peace.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cover up, but then it was.
it was like a winter scene or something. There's a lot of
Their
snowflakes.
school's
in there, I think.
girlfriend posed, and then they took cool photos.
Okay.
In the butt, they didn't trace it. They had the photos up,
Yeah.
and they're drawing it and changing it, doing the rendition of it. I love that. That's awesome.
That to me is the definition of reference. You know, like you're not just, you know, that's a funny word that kind of gets diced up a little bit, but like you're not just taking a photo, pulling the photo, using it. You're kind of like using your eye to look at it, but then draw it directly.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think most people do that. I mean, because you can draw it, right?
Yeah.
And you're scared of fucking up, which is understandable. Right?
Yeah, I can honestly really see the consideration. Be like, if I'm putting a woman's face on a body, I want to make sure it's perfect, so I'll just trace something.
But I could see fuck ups that people are doing that.
Yeah.
You could tell they trace the hands in the face.
Yeah.
And they don't even know how to position them. Like it looks like it's coming out of the...
Yeah, it's a Mr. Potato Head kind of thing.
Yeah,
But yeah.
It's just cut and paste, or the hand's like half the size that it should be.
Or even some of those poser programs, like there's an art pose program that I've seen people use where you can manipulate a 3D thing, you can change the lighting. I've used it before as a reference. I think it's cool because the lighting setting in that thing is really cool. Because like, one thing that I've seen you do that I think might be one of my favorite parts of your work is like, it'll be a shadow off an arm or something where like, you're still seeing how the light hits an elbow and you're able to be really creative with that. But like, I can't really imagine that stuff so well. So I'll reference that just to see like, how does a shadow fall on an arm? Because you want to know where it hits the muscles and stuff. So those poser programs are good for that, but sometimes they're wrong. Like sometimes the shoulder will just hinge back on itself and you just have this crazy,
And if you don't know anatomy.
Yeah.
And if someone just
I've seen it done, like traced and be like,
that's wrong.
there's a glitch in those programs where like the arm can hyperextend behind itself and stuff. So it loses all reality at a certain point. It just looks nuts. But yeah, it should be reference, not like a one-to-one sort of, in my opinion. But
well, drawing number one is having the reference is important if you want to get it correct. Because even when I started doing anatomy years ago, I was pretty shitty.
Well, yeah, I think
I had a cartoony idea how it was way more cartoony.
Yeah, I've seen you sort of crank up the dial into more, like I don't want to say realistic, but more realistic. Anatomical or something like you.
It's slowly getting better-ish.
Yeah. So was this the goal all along when you were kind of more in the cartoony era, and then you kind of pushed more to this?
I think when I was more cartoony, I was in my wheelhouse. That's all I knew how to do. Right?
Okay.
But I know where I wanted to go. I only got there by doing it.
Right.
And there's still where I want to go. Still is. It's going to take hard work.
Okay. Well, maybe lastly, like in the same way that we kind of just did a brief thing on the back and the sleeve, do you want to do a leg? Maybe talk about what you think your planes are, where stuff would go.
Yeah,
like
legs are tough.
Yeah, because you got your butt, knee, the back, like the tendons around the back, stuff like that. That might be the most complex one, like just in the amount of planes that you change.
And it's a reverse. It's an arm, like the elbow.
Yeah, it's backwards. Bends backwards.
Yeah.
Usually it has to link to a back piece more than an arm would. Arm kind of, the only consideration was really the chest, as far as like transitioning into another piece,
Well, here,
which most people do at the same time.
Topic. When people do a fucking rib,
Yeah.
and they do it oversized, so it interferes. You ever get that?
With the back?
The back?
Yeah.
Your customer comes in to get it back, but the rib piece goes like.
Yeah. So where do you end a rib piece? My thinking is like,
if you look outside your body, the seam.
okay.
If you were to split directly down.
Yeah. I'll trace a back piece to, like if you're looking at it, you know, if they've squared off facing away from you, everything that's visible, and then maybe a little bit more is what I will kind of take it. Like if you do a back piece and then if you're looking at it straight on and there's a seam around the sides, it looks strange.
Yeah.
Like you want full coverage because that has that you know, that frames it.
But it depends who goes first.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you do a rib first, you're going to probably try to get an inch over.
Yeah. Or maybe you need to or something for the drawing that you did
You don't want to compromise.
Right. And there's just a bunch of open space right next door. Might as well just mosey on in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's sort of, you know, that's a rule. I guess, an unspoken one about the way that you trace pieces, the way that you cut off larger pieces. Like you take a sleeve to the wrist. Some people do a 3/4. I've seen 3/4 halfway down the forearm. That's not a 3/4, it's a 7/16 or whatever. Like yeah.
Schwent just missed.
Right.
I think I grew out of my sleeve.
Yeah, right. You should have ordered a size large.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's all a preference, like where people end stuff. But like that to me that's kind of another unspoken rule, that it's hard to describe what's right or wrong, but you definitely know the wrong. You're definitely like, what are you doing there? Why, a sleeve only comes to here instead of coming on top of the shoulder and fully kind of rounding it, which I've done at times where we were going to add the chest and it was an afterthought, so I left it open up here so that I could carry something into the chest.
I think for sure it's like, at least when you're standing towards someone, it's from this pit and straight over.
Okay.
For sure. And of course you can go past that. But
Yeah.
you shouldn't go below it because it looks sad.
And most people
It's
have
unfinished. And, it gives you like a droopy look.
It looks like, when ladies kind of wear their shirt off their shoulder or something, like it looks like that.
That was big when I was working at Smile Buddha. I've
The
seen that a lot.
shorter one?
I just didn't push it to the edge where, because now tattoos are just... Like, when people see an empty space now, it's like, I need to fill that. Before, they didn't really think about that too much.
Okay. And that's usually background. It would be mostly like just kind of around it, Maybe you had something like that's exciting on the ball of the shoulder. It's an extra couple inches that is so big to making it feel...
If it was biker style, just more purple bubble clouds, I don't know.
Yeah, bubble it out. Just round that off the top. But then that's where your chest piece would begin, is right from that crease, right? Most people have that natural standing kind of,
But if you have a customer who's he's going to do his chest.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll leave a little bit of a space where I can work into. But I know that's planning ahead, right? It's not
for sure.
Just leaving your customer stranded.
But all that, I think, again, like that's second nature to you. Yeah, there you go. So you think it is one of the hardest things to describe because it's second nature to you now. You've been doing it forever. That's just what works, You're still kind of playing in that sandbox of like, this is wrong, but I'm going to fuck around and try and...
I think now I'm trying to find the wrong and making it right.
Yeah.
Because there's... Like, I think I preach about formulaic styles and formulaic tattooing. Like, Neo-Trad is pretty formulaic.
It's tempting because once you do it, you've achieved, like, it's right or something, right? Like it's a...
I believe it's easy to get to.
Yeah.
Because it's usually traced and they add, but it goes against what I think it should look like. Because you usually, unless people are doing the super large scale, and there's talk about who's doing it really well.
Yeah.
Most people who are doing it, they're just going for that Instagram plunk.
Yeah, right? Something that can fit in the crop.
Try to get it done one day.
And then get the perfect photo. Like, yeah. I've heard of people even...
It's usually done really well.
Yeah.
Aesthetically looks great, right?
Yeah, and I understand all that. I understand that way of thinking because if you generate all your business for tattooing through Instagram, that's how you're promoting yourself. So you're just gearing everything towards looking good and having content to put up every day. I get that way of thinking.
Yeah. I think that when Instagram started getting big, it was the portrait artists that really did that. Because the portraits were usually done in a day and really well done.
Yeah.
Nice photo.
And it's realistic and if you say you do a portrait of some
Johnny
famous
Cash.
Johnny Cash, and then people look at it and they're like, oh, that's Johnny Cash, therefore this is correct. Like your brain does that little thing where they're like, it looks good, looks like the guy. Yeah. So you've won that one. Whereas I don't know, that's the tricky part of like bigger illustrative stuff is like the best result I think you can get is like, I see where he was going with this. And he pulled it off in his own way, but there's no arrival point to be like, that's Johnny Cash. It's like, oh, that's crazy. This is like the best reaction you're gonna get. Or like, if you're not, I don't know, maybe it's kind of a looser point, but like traditional is traditional. When you see it, like the Japanese back pieces that we talked about, where once you nail it, you nail it. You're achieving a thing that maybe that thing already exists, but people recognize it when they see it. Yeah. Whereas a lot of your stuff, and I would hope to a lesser extent my stuff, like, never been done before, but people are still like, that's a cool tattoo. So it still fits in there somehow, but it's different, it's unique. Yeah. I get people coming to me because they just want something weird. Like, that's still a tattoo, but they're like, fuck around with it a little bit. And that's my favorite. Yeah. I would never, you know, that's all I ever want to do. But
just weird shit.
Yeah, or just like, you can see it's a rendition of something. Like, we're doing still, like, you know, I do a lot of Japanese, or like I'll rethink some American stuff. Like, I like doing subject matter that's tattoo-y, and it's in that, you know, everybody loves a skull and a rose, or
12 favorite things.
The hits, the Fishbowl. You know, everything that we have written in there is just stuff that you've been asked to do 100 times. But that's the fun challenge of it, is like, okay, I've drawn that a million times. Like, how can I do it different, or how do I want to mess around, or even something like this where you're like, how do I put a face in a place that is normally difficult to do? How do I get away with it and have it work? And in fucking 3 scribbles, you did it. But like, that's the But that's the mode of thinking I think we're in a lot of the time. It's just like, what can I do differently? How can I spin this in a way that's like unique, and that I can get my personality across in it, and then that person's
which is hard
stoked
for me
at the same
because I'm
time.
not conceptual. You know?
Yeah, do you, like, are you considering in your head a lot of the time what it looks like, or are you pen to paper kind of working it out?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Sweet. Yeah. I might be half and half.
I have to make a story. I think I talked about that before.
Yeah,
Without a story.
You kind of have to see it on the paper, and then it builds from there, right? You'll start with the face, and then that, like, have an arm enter.
Yeah. Well, I use it, for most of the time I start with an idea.
Yeah.
But then if someone just wants a mermaid.
Yeah.
Mermaid sleeve, I can't draw until
Right.
What is she doing? Waiting for the bus, you know?
So your concept in your brain is more about like what's happening in the scenario.
Because it adds flow.
Okay.
A story adds flow. It makes you
That's interesting.
draw with energy, like something's happening, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of just, and then anal beats.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think my, like, if I am doing like thinking beforehand what I want, like, I'm more boring. I think about like colors and where I'm gonna go. I don't know that I think so much about the story, but maybe I kind of want to try it.
You have cool stories.
I think it comes later. Like, I'll kind of be like, oh yeah, she's outside or something.
Drawing.
Yeah.
The teeth and shit, right?
Yeah.
That's rad.
That was a shot at just being weird, I think. But
seems like there's a story.
yeah. So somehow I guess you can get that across. But I don't know that I had it in my mind the whole time. So somewhere along the line I was like, okay, I know what's going on here, you know? But again, I was probably drawing that, like, I think I was listening to classical music while I drew it, you know, to try and get in the, like, the vibe of what it would be.
Yeah.
I think all that kind of affects it too. If you listen to like aggressive heavy metal and you're drawing pretty ladies, you know, you almost have to match that up. I've heard people talk about that before, like when they're drawing, it changes what they're drawing based off what they listen to, or, you know, whatever they, you know, because even here, like, we're at your shop here, and like you create an atmosphere that's like, this is a place where you do some fucking drawing. Like, it just looks that way. It's like everything in here is conducive to sitting at this table and drawing.
To help inspire you.
Yeah. I think that stuff goes a long way. Even the pictures you choose to put, and like all that, you know, like, that's big. Anything that you could do to get it, you know, funnel it through to.
Yeah, like if your tattoos are very Art Nouveau, you're gonna have
Muka and just stuff like that. Yeah.
Everything around.
Yeah. Smoke clove cigarettes and a pipe, and, you know, be artsy like you live in Paris or something.
Whoa.
Yeah. That's a big, like, he'll, you know, Muka, he'll have those like big geometric stuff, but like if you took that out, it would still have flow somehow. Like the way she sits on
most people who do that still don't have flow. So they're trying to get flow with their background.
Right.
And if you took away that, there'd be probably no flow. It's usually pretty stoic and stiff.
So you're kind of like, if you have that stoic thing and then you're just adding bells and whistles to try and get motion into it, I don't know that I've ever even considered it until you said it, but like the motion comes from the actual focal point of the way that it's moving, not creating any right angles maybe or straight lines. Like the way that that sits on the body part that you are drawing for. Yeah, flow comes from.
I'm not sure who told me this once or I made it up, but if you have a basic drawing, you're super happy with it. But if you try to change that drawing 10% of an angle, or 10% of perspective, or 10% of something, it's going to be 10% better.
So you mean in terms of changing the perspective, or just changing anything about it?
If the drawing you already did and you're happy with, you're going to tattoo it.
Yeah.
You add an angle to it.
Okay.
Or something, and that's flow. Like if you have a face going forward, but the eyes are looking that way.
Yeah.
That just adds flow.
Right.
Adds energy. Tells a story, or it's helping you tell a story.
It's more like looks like a snapshot. You know, like a lot of your.
In action.
Yeah, even that back piece that you had, the Hanuman guy with his arm kind of coming up. It looks like you caught him mid-battle scene or whatever he's doing. Like he's moving around and it looks like a action shot, you know?
No,
like,
I think what looks like he's going for the dunk, but whatever.
yeah. Somebody's alley-ooping to him. Vishnu is fucking digging him one and then he's sending it home.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, honestly, just this, like the way that you describe flow in terms of the way that you think of it, and the way that you're kind of telling a story with things. I think like in the beginning I was trying to get to the bottom of like what's your formula, like having a set rule of things, but this is just what works for you. Like do you think this is something
You'll
that
see a lot of that. I do a lot of this, you know, not saying but the arms and
Yeah.
That's how I like.
Well, I think
flow.
even like if you draw something, you know, somebody comes to you and they're like, I want a Ganesh back piece. I think most people, maybe myself included, would think of the head. The head is the most exciting part. Yeah. But I've seen you create a focal point out of a hand and an arm. That's like a whole other feature to the tattoo that, you know, I've also seen people lose out on that and just kind of have it sitting or something and not make that an exciting part. Yeah. So you're almost going through, but once you nail it, it's I don't know, it makes the piece maybe more than the face even might. Because it's like, you know, it's just a cool other feature. Like if you looked at, you know, took a looking glass and just looked at a tiny little piece, I like to try and make every little square of a tattoo exciting. If it pokes out of a t-shirt and you have a little block. Like, did I ever tell you I got out of a speeding ticket one time because of you?
No.
Yeah, so this guy pulled me over, cop, I was ripping up the McLeod or whatever when I lived here. He pulled me over and he had one of your half sleeves poking out of his shirt. He was a cop. And I was like, I could tell from just this much of his sleeve that you had done it. And I was working with you at the time, so I was like, oh yeah, Tex, eh? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know that? And I was like, oh, I know his stuff or whatever. Just started chatting him up and he eventually just let me slide, didn't give me the ticket. But I could tell that it was your tattoo from the bottom maybe 2 inches. Just in the way that you had, you know, the way it was flowing. I think there was a finger wave in there or something.
I think I know the guy.
Yeah. Tell him thanks the next time you see him, because he was cool. But that to me says a lot. Like even, you know, in designing something, you go for the focal point to make the face really cool, anal beads, blah, 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 make it exciting. And then you kind of just phone in the background and everything. But I think in your stuff, the thing that I appreciate the most is that every square inch is kind of exciting.
I'm not knocking on anal beads.
It's all right.
Beads in the hair?
Yeah. It is a cool feature.
Beads, but usually when I'm doing beads, they're flying around. You know,
like coming off or being more exciting.
Because the object is.
Right? Obviously, we joke about it.
It's the beads.
We say it in good fun.
Yeah,
but
I'm not serious.
I've seen people
do their tattoos really, really well. So.
Yeah, I've seen people make it work where it makes the thing, and it's awesome.
There's another cop story. We're riding our custom choppers we had at the time. And we were racing down McLeod with a guy, and the cops were chasing us.
Oh, really?
But we didn't know. Like, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, you're just in the zone.
He stops, pulls right in the intersection, blocks us off like we're gonna get pummeled. And
did they draw on you?
No, he just blocked us so we didn't take off again. All the traffic was blocked too behind us.
Oh, okay.
He gets he knew it was me. Comes right over to me. Answer your fucking emails, Tex.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
He's just
like, okay, I'll answer it.
Whoa.
And then he gets in this cop car and drives away.
That's awesome.
And the guy who was with, I didn't know him that well. He's just like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. It's just
I'm not sure. Let's get that out of here.
slow."
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty sick, though.
That was cool.
Did you end up tattooing that guy?
No, I
or?
didn't answer my emails.
You just obey the speed limit now.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's crazy.
Answer your fucking emails, Pat. That was awesome.
Damn. Well, I think that's interesting, man. I had, you get that sense of just like the more tattoos you look at, the more you're like, they're playing with some kind of a 3D thing here that like, that was my attempt to get to here, just asking you this is like, is there a roadmap that you follow or like, but it seems like it's just kind of intuitive to you at this point.
Yeah,
you
usually when I draw, someone wants a back piece and I know it's neck to knees,
yeah.
I will not look at the trace. I will
Right.
draw for myself first.
You get a
things are
bit of
gonna
a
go
soup cooking first. You get like the story, right? The
Yeah.
face or the expression.
Because as soon as I draw right away to a trace, I
Mhm.
usually feel like a little suffocated. Like I have to.
Yeah.
One thing I got into tattooing because I don't like rules.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I try
Yeah.
to break rules even in tattooing.
Mhm.
So having to draw for a shape
Yeah.
restricts me to what I want to do. So I draw first and then, because I think the better tattoos are the ones that are blown up and going outside the picture.
Right. Yeah. Something will enter or like exit
You don't
the
need to
frame
see
or
the
whatever.
body.
Yeah.
Do you need to see all the limbs? No, fuck.
Yeah.
It's almost like a dragon. I know it looks cool and people, but really you just need the head and a couple claws here. Let's get on with the day.
That is something that bugs me with octopus tattoos. When people are like, I want to count all 8. I want to see all 8 in there. It's like, why? You know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
You know?
I had to do that once. He's like, I counted my tentacles.
Yeah.
There's only 6. I'm like, yeah, but it's
Oh,
2
what?
in the background, man.
Yeah. When you look at it in the ocean, it's not like just 8
I think
to
I
the.
had to put, the silhouette ones in, but
Crazy.
they actually look cool. So
Yeah,
it's
sweet.
good.
But that is like, that's a rule that you don't necessarily have to adhere to have it be right. But those seem to exist, those unspoken rules where you're like,
Like a hand has to have 6 fingers.
Has
Because I've done that once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, added an extra digi?
Yeah, no, not on purpose.
Oh. Shit.
I've drawn a lot of hands in my day.
Yeah,
Like, I came thousands, of course.
probably, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how that, maybe it was on a tattoo or two.
Wow.
Adam.
Oh.
And he didn't know.
And then one day you were just like, wait, a tick?
No, I
or-
think, this was like fucking 19 years ago or something.
Yeah.
It was a mermaid sleeve from 19 years ago. But that hand was on the back of his arm, I think. So I think he was in a pub and he had a tank top and another
Yeah.
guy was like, hey man, is your mermaid supposed to have 6 fingers? And he's just like, I don't know. I don't think so. Of course he was stoked that I
Yeah.
fucked up on him.
That is kind of a cool
He didn't want to
thing.
cover it up,
Right.
but I did.
Yeah. You gotta chop that finger.
I think I was pretending I was touching something else and I just went, that
Oops.
was the evidence.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, I that is the interesting part. Is that like if were you to write down here are the rules to tattooing, like I don't know that you could because people are gonna agree and disagree depending on who you talk to, but maybe it's more the point to like kind of form your own.
just don't be too fancy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking to 2 fancy guys.
Fancy
You're talking
tattoos.
to a couple of
We do fancy tattoos.
fancy guys.
I'm not sure who said that.
Yeah.
Dax.
Dax, yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dax.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like you kind of develop your own rule book a little bit, but you kind of have to as you said, you don't like rules, but you have to know what they are to break them, right?
Like you shouldn't draw a koi unless you know kind of what a koi looks like.
Yeah,
Like
for
if
sure.
it has eyelashes on it, you're probably
Yeah.
doing it wrong.
Well, in the 90s, koi
They all
fish
did.
did have eyelashes.
And really big eyes.
Yeah, in Japan, if you went to a koi pond, they had big, fake, fake eyelashes on. It's just part of evolution, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, cool, man. That's all I wanted out of you today. I think we got the fundamentals.
Is that fundamental or?
I think so, because I think even talking to Dax, he's got a very kind of a rigid approach. I don't say that negatively. I mean, like he has a tried system, whereas yours seems to be very experimental still, because you always want to be doing something different or that you haven't done before. So if your fundamentals don't change, your drawings don't change. Like it seems like the only rigid rules you have are just placement of how the body works. Everything else is kind of fluid for you, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because it keeps it fun, right? It keeps it loose. Like you can,
hey, we're a bunch of fun guys.
hey, a couple fancy guys just doodling around over here. But yeah, I think that's where it's at. Because there's some things you can't change. You can't change the shape of someone's back. You know, everybody's gonna be different in a small sense, but like, you know, a butt is a butt. There's only one way to draw for that. So maybe that's the stuff that doesn't change, and then everything else is your approach, your flow, subject matter, all that.
Try to put detail where
Yeah.
if it ages, it's not going to look too shmishy.
Right.
Is it right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it could shmish.
Shmish,
Yeah. And I mean, everything shmishes over time.
Yeah.
But you want to avoid the shmish
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Or maybe see the future in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Assume that it's going to shmish.
Yeah, there's even in traditional, there's, you know, guys will leave that little force field to let the lines spread over time, and like it's all considered, even in that
Yeah.
style.
Like the force field.
Yeah, that little gap, you know what I mean? But yeah, you know, you can't black up to a line or you lose it. So you force field.
Yeah.
You do
It
that
also helps it stand out.
a little relief. Yeah. Yeah, it'll push it forward
That
in
was
the
a big thing
frame.
For illustrative, new school illustrative guys.
Yeah.
We know who they were back then.
Yeah.
The line was like
Oh, everything had a
an
color
inch
outline
thick,
around.
and then it had an inch of halo around it.
Yeah.
How many tricks do you need to make that stand out?
And then there was a color outline on top of that. So everything would have like a blue around
Just a
the,
random color.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works.
that
in
was,
certain things, but
yeah. And then it just became a crutch. Like it just everything had
Yeah.
a bubble. Yeah. But yeah. I think, any advice maybe would be, because in the same way that you did, talking to Dax or traditional guys, they find their own rule book, and then it depends how much you stick to it or how much you want to bend and break stuff and keep it. It seems like you do it this way to keep it interesting for yourself. I think, I've been a fan of your work for fucking 20 years. Like, yeah, it's never repeated itself. I think that's you just like,
I'm pretty sure it does.
no? I don't know. From what I can see, you're always just trying to keep it interesting for yourself. Or
I'm
like,
just trying to get bigger and bigger
yeah.
in the same amount of space. Just
That's something that you said you want to maybe simplify on a bigger
whatever
scale.
I do, even if maybe not so much because this is
No, don't worry about that
traditional
piece of crap.
ish, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
especially I think illustrative. is
And
meant-
is it a technical thing that you want it to look good over time?
I
Is it just
wanna
more
be
of
able to
a,
see it from across the room.
yeah, totally.
And if I can't tell what it is from across the room, failed.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe not failed, but like I want it to read.
I think there's those maybe two kind of things there where like if it's cool across the room and then once you get across the room, there's little details that are still,
Yeah.
you can appreciate them more close up. So you get the broad strokes maybe from across the room, and then as you come forward, there's little kind of features or, even just like scales or something in there
Yeah.
where you,
A little tracker,
as it
tweak.
comes into focus, you see that kind of cool little stuff. That's a delicate dance to do. Like the curb appeal of like, holy shit, look at that over there. And then you get up to it and there's like a little skeleton or something, So that's a goal that you've kind of set for yourself. Do you want to move that way or try it out?
Just go bigger.
Sweet. Well, yeah, man. I think that's it. I think that's valuable. Even this is more just for me. The camera's not even on. I just wanted to ask you some stuff.
Usually the mic falls off me anyways.
Sweet. Right on. Well, thanks for watching Fishbowl. Stay fancy.
And